Okay, Assalamu alaikum, may the peace and blessings of God be upon everyone, whoever tunes in later, whoever's tuning in now. We have another very interesting live stream for you guys, and this time I'm joined by Brother Jerry. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone.
Brother Jerry has a very interesting story, which we'll go into eventually, because as you guys can probably tell, he doesn't look like he's from any part of Asia or from Pakistan or anything like this. So I'm sure he has some very interesting things to share with us regarding, obviously Brother Jerry's Muslim, alhamdulillah, and how he became Muslim, why he became Muslim. We're going to touch upon this too. And you guys may be thinking the title of the video, the live stream, is The Signs of God in Nature. And when they see Brother Jerry, they may be thinking, okay, why are you talking about someone coming to Islam? And the link I'm trying to make here is that the signs of God are not just limited to one sphere. They're not just limited to the physical universe. The signs of God are everywhere, right? And including in our own personal lives.
If you wish to see them.
If you wish to see them. And we'll touch upon this. This is a very important point, bro. Is that, because some people, what some people do? They get excited and they say, okay, you're talking about the signs of God. Show me something definitive that I can analyze and then judge whether God exists or not. But there's a problem with that, right? That approach. And we'll talk about these things too. So we're going to talk about the signs of God, not only within nature, within our lives as well, and how, when you actually sincerely look for the signs and you find the signs and God guides you, what that means in real life, for example, through your story as well, bro. Okay. So the very first thing we want to do, guys, is we want you guys to share this live stream. So if you've tuned in now, if you're a Muslim, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum, please share this live stream on your Facebook pages with as many people as you can, so other people can come on and benefit too, and they can maybe take away something good from this discussion. And this is also an opportunity for you guys to give da'wah, which is to help in conveying the message of Islam, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to everyone, to the world. If you're a non-Muslim and you've joined us and you're tuning in, first and foremost, welcome to this live stream. I thank you guys for coming. Please stay tuned for the entire live stream. I'm sure you're going to find it very, very beneficial, because it's not just a face-to-camera type of live stream today. We've got Jerry with us today, who's going to share his story, give us some insights, how he came to Islam, some of the signs that were in his life that he noticed that led him to this way of life. So it's going to be a very interesting live stream. Make sure you guys share it. Make sure you guys stay tuned. And like we always say, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please leave them below. If they come up on my screen, we're gonna try to address them as we go through the live stream. If they come up later, we'll go through the comments at the end of the live stream and we'll try to answer your questions the best we can. But make sure you guys comment, make sure you guys leave your suggestions or whatever the case is below. I'm just checking if, yep, should be fine, if the comment section is enabled. So without further ado, there's a few people that are coming on now. Before we go into this, what are we talking about, Jerry? This live stream. Let's just reiterate it and mention it again for the people that are tuning in.
Okay, we're going to give an abridged version to some extent of my story of how I came to Islam from atheism, but it was quite a long process, a pretty gradual process. So like I say, we'll have to cut it down somewhat. I don't know how long we have, but
we'll take the juicy bits.
Exactly.
If that's okay with you,
that's fine.
So think of the juicy bits.
And we're going to bust it down into stages, because I went from atheism to a sort of deism, or somebody that believed in a creator at least. And then in between deism and Islam, there were steps and stages along the way, but I can give some of the initial signs that made me quash my atheism, and then some of the more powerful signs which brought me to Islam, obviously.
Brilliant. So this is it, brothers and sisters, friends. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the signs of God within nature. These signs we're going to talk about. We'll share some beautiful things within creation, within the heavens and the earth. And then we'll go into the type of personal signs that all of us get in our lives at some point. And they're always there, but it's a case of tuning your internal radar to pick up on those signs. And what does tuning that radar mean? What does that mean for the person? What sort of mindset and psychology do you have to pick up on these signs? And we'll touch upon these things, and then we'll take a personal case study from yourself, bro, as to when your journey from, like you said, atheism all the way to Islam, and what were the signs that came in your life, right? So maybe people watching this may relate to some of those things. They may be like, you know what, I've experienced those things this guy experienced, you know.
No doubt about it.
And hopefully this will aid in them, you know, and maybe a sign for them to come to Islam, inshallah, if Allah wills. So that being said, brothers, sisters, friends, without further ado, let's get into this. Now, we talk about this a lot, Jerry, you know, and for someone who's not a Muslim, right, for someone who's maybe a sincere person, who's realized that there's more to life.
Well, the sincerity is actually essential.
Essential, and we're going to go into that.
And you realize that even more after you become Muslim. So without that, you may as well go off and do something else.
Yeah. So sincerity is key.
Yeah.
Right. So let's speak to the people that really want to understand and that are really looking. Right.
Yeah.
That's not to say we're not gonna entertain those that may have questions, for whatever reason may not like God, may be against the idea of God.
Sincerity with themselves is the main thing.
Yes.
Not with us or
absolutely
even with Allah, because at the end of the day, it's your existence on the line.
Absolutely. It's not mine or yours. It's everyone else's. Each man for themselves, or each woman for themselves, basically. So let's start with the signs of God within nature. Now, in Islam, we know, for example, some of the scholars said that there's two books. You have the Revelation, which is the Quran, which they said is a closed book, and then the open book, which is creation itself, right? We've touched upon Revelation many times in these live streams, and we'll probably carry on doing that. But what I want to specifically focus on today is the signs of God within nature, within reality, within the world. Now, from your experience, from your life, when you were an atheist, if we rewind the tape back, were there any things that you would every now and then stop and think about and reflect over and think, you know what, there has to be something behind this?
Yeah, all the time. But there were two problems. Like, I should actually give a brief overview of how I became an atheist first off.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was raised as a Catholic, but not staunchly. I suppose, like my family, they still go to mass and say a few prayers here and there, but they never really forced anything on me, and the church never felt right to me anyway. Never ever, even as a young kid. Now I know it was my fitrah, but back then I didn't know why.
You used an Arabic word, fitrah. What does that mean?
Sorry, my natural disposition that we've all been created upon.
Okay.
So when I hit puberty, obviously you start to think more and more, and without going into too much detail, because we're not here to bash Christianity, but after I actually started to read the Bible and compared the doctrines of Christianity with common sense and with the Bible, I realised there's absolutely no way on any level that if there is a supreme being, that he can get nailed to a cross by his tiny creations, killed, and then also the reason for this so-called sacrifice doesn't make sense anyway, but we leave that there. We leave that there. I was about 12 or 13 at that point, and I knew no other concept. I had no other theological concepts. I knew of no other religions. So I thought to myself, well, I cannot believe this anymore. Not that I didn't want to. I simply can't. So what do I have left? Atheism. So that was around the age of 13. Then.
So at 13 you became atheist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I'll have to gonna fast forward the next 14 or 15 years. But to make a long story short, living the atheistic life, it doesn't bring you any happiness. Unless you want to close your eyes and ears completely, and you have no curiosity or no openness in your mind.
So let me ask you, bro, when you were an atheist, right? When you would look at things around you, for example, you would look at the human yourself, that you were this very intricate being that's made up very precisely and beautifully designed. When you look at the sun and the moon and the alternation between them, when you look at just the universe and all of the laws within the universe and all of these types of things, wouldn't that strike something within you?
From time to time it did, if I'm to be honest.
What would come to your mind? What would you think?
When I was alone, I used to think a lot. Obviously, when you're in company as an atheist, you have no barriers on your behaviour, so you can block out whatever
anything goes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You can block out whatever thoughts you have for as long as you want. But when I was on my own, I used to think about things like this, and to be honest, I couldn't really get with the atheist conclusions back then, i.e. that we evolved from apes, universe from nothing, etc., etc. But I never really pushed myself on it. I'll use another Arabic term because
carry on, bro. I'm just gonna move this.
I wanted to give free rein to my nafs, which is your lower self, the part of yourself that wants the the quick fix, the enjoyment, etc. That wants to run away from the hard work, the effort, even in thinking. So, although I always had doubts about atheism, I suppose I was weak, and I just kept on trying to fill the gap in my life with various different behaviours, which I won't go into. But at the age of about 27, I came across 2 arguments for the existence of God. Now, these are not very powerful. They're not very powerful. As any of you have been involved in Dawah will know, they are the cosmological argument and the teleological argument. In more common terms, they are cause and effect. In other words, nothing comes from nothing, that which begins, etc., etc. And also the precision in the design in ourselves and the universe. But I had never actually come across these arguments before. So somebody pointed them out to me. I said I would look into them. I did. Very quickly I realised atheism had to be false.
Okay.
Now, I didn't come to a belief in God at all at this stage. I just knew that there had to be a creator.
Okay.
And going back to what I said before, all I had put into me before was Christian theology.
Yeah.
I never had anything from a common sense point of view, but that took me from atheist to someone who believes in a creator. Now, no more than this.
Yeah.
And probably the last thing on earth I thought I was looking for at the time was Islam. So, you wanted to ask me something?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, before we move on, I'm just going to quickly flick through the questions.
Okay.
Before we get
into
these.
Hit them later anyway.
Yeah, we'll you know what, we'll come around to them. I'm just trying to see if there's anything relevant to what we're discussing right now. Right, there's some Christian brothers and sisters in humanity which have joined us. Welcome to this live stream, guys. We will address your questions specifically, but we don't want to lose the flow. So we will. I've got your questions, and we're going to go back to them as well, and we'll address the specifics regarding Jesus being the Son of God and dying for you, and all of these types of questions that are coming up. But for now, let's carry on with what we're talking about, bro. So you're saying you came across the 2 main arguments.
Yes.
About something coming from nothing, right?
Yeah.
In basic terms, that if you look, everything that exists has to come from something.
Anything that begins must have a prior cause outside of itself.
Yeah.
Again, now, we're not saying these are powerful arguments in any way, because...
But they got you thinking.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that's what these realities are there. And I think it's a good point to touch upon this now, is that when we talk about signs, right, we need to make sure that anyone watching this right now understands what we're saying. Signs don't mean definitive 100% proof that God exists. The type of proof that the most staunch of atheists...
You can forget about this anyway.
Because there is a beautiful thing, which principle, if you like, which is God doesn't need anyone. He doesn't need us to worship Him, right? He doesn't. We don't need to. God doesn't need to put Himself on trial to an atheist and say, "Here's the evidence. Now, please decide and accept that I exist, and please worship me." This is not who God is, right?
No, that's clear in Islam.
God doesn't need anyone. We know from our tradition that if every single human being was to turn away from God, turn away from the worship of God, live evil lives,
His kingdom wouldn't be increased by an atom.
Yeah, or nothing will be taken away from His kingdom, right?
If vice versa.
Yeah, and understanding this, God doesn't need us. We need God. So if we want guidance, we have to, like we said before, sincerity. Be sincere.
Yes.
Right. We should want guidance. We should want the truth, and we should be humble. Right, and these 2 things are very, very critical to have the right psychology for guidance to come to you, right? And you probably noticed this yourself.
The desire for the truth, it's not for the truth that you wish to be true. It has to be for wherever that truth lies, that you're going to accept it and work on from there. That's a part of the humility, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like we know from the Quran tells us that one of the main blocks to guidance is arrogance. Allah does not like arrogance.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
It's a filter. You can't. When
we all have a degree of arrogance. We do.
Absolutely.
We're all still working on that, but you can be humble in other ways once you realise certain truths, and then crack on with smashing down your arrogance. You know?
And this is the thing, that your heart will pick up on these signs.
Exactly.
Right. The signs are there, but the signs are for people who really understand. Right. Those who reflect, and those who are sincere, and those who are humble, and those who have no barriers, like you said. There's no arrogance, there's no pride. So when they look at reality and they really connect the dots with a clear mind and a clear heart, they can see that there has to be something behind this. And you came to that point in your life, right?
Yes.
Because you said one of the arguments was just the design of the universe, in simple terms, right? Can you share any specifics with us? When you say, were you looking at something specifically, you said, wow, this has to be designed?
I'm going to be honest, with regards to the specifics of these arguments, I don't have
just generally
strong a memory.
yeah.
Like they took me. I do with regards to going from a deist or a theist to Islam. I remember the specifics, but these arguments were the beginning of my search, so they were longer ago, and even so, they're not, like I say, they're not that powerful. They're just a step to take you from non-belief to realization that there is something.
Yeah.
There is something powerful. There is something extremely wise. There is something with a will and an intent for us that has created us and the universe.
Yeah, and like we said, all of these signs and these arguments are there to trigger the reality within, which already exists within every single human being, right? And this is the key. So, for example, I'll give you a simple example. Recently, bro, I came across these beautiful pictures, and it was snowing in London, in the UK last week, right? And I came across these beautiful pictures of snowflakes, right? And I was looking at these pictures and I was thinking, wow, these, just the design and the geometry and the symmetry, it looked like someone had taken a fine chisel and chiseled out all of these symmetrical parts and just made this thing,
Even the chisel would require
exactly.
a designer
and
to
but
get to the stage of
the
a snowflake.
Exactly, and the interesting thing about snowflake is that it emerges itself through obviously physical processes, and we know Allah is behind every single physical process. Allah is behind. God is one who's in control of every single physical process and every single thing. So the snowflake isn't an accident. Allah is the one that designs it and allows for the causes and means for which design it, or which allow for it to form into the shape it forms into. But when you look at it, what they do is now, look, they were saying, oh, we understand the science, most of it. They don't understand exactly how it's formed. It starts as a dust particle, and when it's in the atmosphere, and then it catches into water particles, and water H2O, it has a certain shape, and it forms this geometrical structure. And then there's these
like
random
a rolling stone gathering moss.
Absolutely. And then as it goes through the different conditions and all of these random things, as they say, it formulates a shape and it has all this symmetry, and then it lands, right? Whatever the case is, the explanation shouldn't take you away from the appreciation of the one that made it, right? And this is the thing, and this was subtle. Now, if you have the atheist and you have a Muslim, right? Both will look at the snowflake. Both will appreciate that there are physical causes behind it.
No doubt.
But the Muslim will say, Subhanallah, glory be to the one who created all of the physical processes and all of the causes which will result in this snowflake. But the atheist will say, oh, we understand how it works, therefore we don't need a God. But that's not true. It's like saying this, do you like biryani, Jerry?
Do, yeah.
You probably had quite a bit of biryani over the past couple of years, right?
I have.
Now, let me give you a scenario, bro. Imagine someone calls you to their house, right? And they make biryani for you, bro. Yeah, biryani, by the way, is a Asian dish of chicken and rice normally.
Dry.
Yeah, dry, yeah. And it's quite spicy as well, yeah?
Can be, yeah.
And there's... Because in a biryani, there are a lot of flavor balances. There's a lot of science, cooking science that goes behind it.
You know better than me.
Right? Yeah. So the key, here's my point. If you don't know how a biryani is made, bro, and you enjoy it and you love it, right? And you appreciate it. Now imagine someone told you the fine intricacies of a biryani, how it's made, all of the ingredients, all of the balance of the ingredients, what time you add them, when you add them, all of this stuff. Will that take away your appreciation for it and your enjoyment of it?
Not at all.
Or would that increase it?
Most likely increase
It'll probably
it.
increase it because now you understand.
Well, it would definitely, yeah.
You understand that
you
there's so much that goes behind.
Some effort has gone into it, you know.
This is the point.
Some investment.
Exactly. So this is the point. What the atheists try to do, they say we understand how things work, therefore there's no why. But the how doesn't take away the why.
No.
If anything, the how leads to the appreciation of the why.
It even increases the need for the why.
Absolutely, you know? Yeah, like in that case. And the snowflake, the process it goes through is far more complex than you can argue than biryani, right? Or any dish for that matter. But the point
it's not
being...
as if they're rare either.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all over the place.
And the reason I share these two parallels, bro, between the atheist and a Muslim is because we are looking at the same sign, but one individual sees it as a sign because of his position, his internal state, and he understands it and appreciates it for what it is, and the other one can't see that because there's a cover, right? And this is the beautiful point. So I guess going back to the original point, bro, we're not saying signs are something definitive for everyone.
No, not
they
at
are
all,
definitive for the ones that want to see the truth, right? And this is the key. Moving on, Jerry, so you came across these two arguments, bro, in your life, right? You were an atheist.
Yep.
What happened when you really sat and thought about these things about design and order and things like this?
Well, very quickly I realised I had to renounce atheism because I was kind of honest in some ways, at least with myself, you know. And I renounced it, and I just became someone that believed in a creator.
Yeah.
But I didn't change anything in my life, and I stayed like that for a couple of months, if I remember correctly, and then I realized, well, hold on, my belief about existence has changed, but nothing else has changed. So this is just like being a deist is just a more cowardly way of being an atheist, with a bit of common sense thrown in. You know, you're saying, I'm not silly enough to say that the universe is uncreated or popped into existence, but I'm going to leave it there. You know, I'm not going to look for the guidance or the reasons why, the whys and the wherefores. Then I realised, wait now, all these religions that I used to kind of shove behind my back before, or at least Christianity, and I kind of lumped them all into the same box without knowing about them, to be fair, but that I used to shove behind my back, they're all telling me about this creator. Now, they may all be saying different things, but at least they're putting some message out there, so I thought, why not?
Yeah.
Why not dip into them, you know? So I dipped into pretty much all of them. I mean, back into the Bible, even though I knew Christianity wasn't the truth.
So just pause there, bro. So you went from atheist to deist.
Yeah.
And then when you were a deist, you started to look into religion again.
Yeah, yeah.
What
because nothing changes when you're a deist.
Okay.
Nothing changes about your life. You're the same atheist, but you say, I believe in some sort of creator.
So rationally, you shifted, but personally, it does nothing for you.
Yeah, it did nothing, yeah. But I knew I had shifted, so, you know, it's only if your beliefs and your actions eventually have to come into line.
Yes.
You know, a belief will manifest in your actions.
You can't live a contradiction.
No, there's no doubt about it. So I started to dip into the Bible because I knew there was some truth in there.
Yeah.
I started to dip into Islam, Sikhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and some crazy modern day neo-paganism stuff as well. Anything that said there was more than this material world, that we had a purpose, etc. Now, the only two contenders after a period of time left were Islam and Sikhism.
Okay, before you go there, bro, because we have a few Christians on watching this now.
Yeah.
And because you originally come from a Christian background, and then you did revisit Christianity as well.
No, the Bible, not Christianity.
No, okay, so you revisit the Bible. Yeah. What was it that made you at least conclude that this could not be the truth?
You mean as a whole?
Yeah. So what made you move away from the Bible and Christianity? What specifics were there? Was it something to do with Jesus?
Because the attributes of God that they claim. And to be fair, they claim many of the same of them as us. Not all of them, but many of them. They contradict with the narrative of the sacrifice in like every single way. Firstly, we believe that God is all powerful.
Okay.
He is also the irresistible.
Yes.
In other words, if He wills a thing, His creations cannot do anything about it.
Yes.
You know, His might is irresistible. He's also completely sovereign. Malik al-Mulk. The king of all kings, the sovereign of all sovereigns. Now, if we take these attributes alone, to say that he was killed by his creations in a very undignified way, it cannot sit with any honest person. And I don't mean to offend anyone, but like the idea of God's power and His might, it just doesn't work that he gets anthropomorphized and killed. And also, we believe that God is entirely just. Entirely just in all His actions. The Christians will all say the same thing. If that's the case, every single person should have their own sins and their own good on their head.
Yeah.
Nobody else should have to die for anyone else's sins, least of all God Himself, or a part of God.
Yeah.
And also the fact that there's a schism now, because Christians also believe in a judgment. You have a massive schism in between the people who came before Jesus and the people who came after, because without a shadow of doubt, everyone has to admit they have to be judged differently.
Yes.
Because the people after Jesus can get judged on the basis of whether they accept the sacrifice, but a supposed just God has to judge all the people previous differently. But this is injustice.
So it leaves no room for justice.
It contradicts His justice, His might, His sovereignty, the fact that He's above and beyond His creation. And all that was probably the main thing. And Christians today, they still can't answer this question.
Yeah. And like you said, the purpose of this is not to offend anyone.
No, not at all.
This is just
this is my truth.
Yeah, and we have some Christian brothers and sisters in humanity that have signed on, and they're obviously passionate and they're leaving comments that Jesus is the truth and so on and so forth. And I respect their passion. However,
yes, absolutely.
we need to, what we're discussing is some very simple, rational, intuitive points. If you disagree with the points, please do leave your comments below and we can go through the reasons why you disagree, right? And that will be more conducive, I think, to what we're discussing.
Yeah, it's fair. If you want to put up a counter argument,
of course,
you have to stand it on something. You have to. You know?
But the beautiful thing, what you just said, is you didn't go into this technical discussion.
I was a kid when I used to
You made a
think
very
about this.
simple point, bro, which was when you understand the nature of God, which Muslims and Christians generally agree upon, which is, for example, He's all powerful, He's the sovereign, He's the mighty, He's the holy, He's all of these perfect things, perfect being. How can you say the most perfect being in some form, way or shape can become less than that and then be treated or killed on a cross?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that type of sacrifice, if I'm not mistaken, was done as a humiliation as well at the time, right?
Yes, it was a standard of humiliation in Roman Empire, wasn't it? And also in Jewish traditions, to be killed on a piece of wood or something.
Yeah. So it doesn't fit the majesty of God in any way, shape or form. And that's a very powerful point, right? Because God is the most perfect being. As soon as you say He becomes something less than that, He ceases to be God. The most perfect being.
It's not possible.
Yeah, it's not possible, right? It's like saying, can you square a circle?
You have to believe then in an imperfect God, which by rights is not God anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And I think that's such a, and because it makes sense up here, bro. And it, like you said, it doesn't sit well in here.
No,
there's something in here. It's like a check for you.
And I realized this 14 or 15 years before I opened one page of any Islamic text.
Wow.
So this is not coming from me because I became Muslim. You know, I had a 15-year gap in between rejection of Christianity and even starting to search for any truth.
Wow.
Least of all Islam, you know.
Wow. So okay, let's move on. So you're moving in your journey now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what, from the perspective of your heart, initially you were in denial, you didn't want to believe, you didn't want to do these things, but at this point when you were going through your journey, you came to Islam or Sikhism.
Yeah.
What was the state of your heart? Were you sincerely looking at this point? Did you want to answer?
Boy, I was curious, really, really curious, and I was also confused because I could also see that all the religions have commonalities, whereas before I thought, well, their differences were more. So even though I kind of knocked down all the other ones to a good extent, I still could see bits of truth in them.
Yeah.
But only Islam actually explains why this is so, and it's clear and sharp on this. Allah says that He sent messengers to every single community across all of time, and this is also from His justice.
Yes.
You know, prophets and messengers were sent with the message of La ilaha illallah.
Yeah.
Worship none but Allah, worship none but God, devote to Him, serve your Creator. And you can find bits and pieces of Islamic doctrine in all the major religions, and even very obscure tribal religions from Australia to South Africa to the Native Americans, at a point where they had no contact with each other whatsoever. So only Islam links those pieces of the puzzle like that. And also, before we jump on to the next stage, which is the more powerful signs, my own personal signs, the Quran actually tells us that Allah says He will show us His signs in the far reaches of the horizon and also within yourselves.
SubhanAllah.
So there are signs there for anyone to see objectively now.
Yeah.
And if you humble yourself and you just ask for guidance, you will get personal subjective signs to you which are more powerful.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened with me.
And it's personal experience that really affects us as human beings, bro.
Of course.
Because you know as well as I do, bro, we enjoy having a bit of a rational banter and arguing with people.
To be fair.
But the honest truth is, bro, at the end of the day, that is not what changes what we believe in and how we live and what we do.
Absolutely.
It's those personal, deep experiences that we have which really shape our beliefs.
Yes.
You know, and that's something very important to understand as well and appreciate as human beings. Because we live in a time, bro, where people try being overly intellectual, right? And they think they're super intellectual and super intelligent.
I mean,
and this is this false thing that we have.
Especially the man and woman on the street. And we're all guilty of it to an extent.
We'll
but
do
like,
we'll do it, bro.
The people on the street who take this kind of stance, I mean, they're in opposition to the experts in their field because they don't even hold on to what they have. With the majority of them don't with such a clinging hug, you know.
Yeah, and I guess one of the main points we're making today, bro, is that, guys, look, it may be all fun and games, discussing, having rational discourse, arguments back and forth.
This is the thing. You can go back and forth with this all day, all week, all month, all year.
But the key is to realize that as human beings, we have a deeper self and a deeper reality, and it's about just being sincere and working on, being humble and sincere and cleaning your heart so that you can receive guidance and being humble.
Yeah.
And sincerely looking for guidance, and God will guide you.
No doubt. If you're sincere.
It's about reaching that state.
And you ask, of course.
Absolutely.
Ask any atheists or agnostics that may be watching, it, like the brother says, it will take you to establish a little bit of sincerity in then 5 to 10 seconds. So don't tell me you've got anything to lose by asking. And if you're looking for somebody who you suspect to be in their house, you roll up at the house, you're unsure whether they are there or not. Are you going to knock the door, or are you just going to walk away and say, I don't believe they are there?
If you walk away, then there's something wrong in...
Yeah, you don't want to know.
You don't even want to know to begin with.
At least you bang on the door. Like, that's about the same amount of time it takes to pray for guidance. That's 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's 5 to 10 seconds. And that's what I did while I was in my state of curiosity and confusion. I remember I lived in Acton. I was renting a place in Acton, and it was a Saturday. And I just said the first prayer I'd said in 15 years or more. I just said, oh, Creator of mine, if you are there, just please clear up this confusion and send me guidance. Because I'm searching, more or less.
Yeah.
Later on that day, I was stopped at a dawah table, Islamic dawah table.
What's a dawah table, bro?
A stall where people call people to Islam on the street, basically.
To say, share literature and
discussion with people. I just, a brother shouted at me. Well, he shouted in general to the public, asking people what they thought the purpose of life was, and I just felt a compulsion to stop. And he gave me a translation of the Quran in English that day. Now, I didn't actually think about it while I was talking to him, because we actually had quite a good discussion, and he cleared up a few points for me, but I was still a bit stubborn on some things, you know, because obviously with the perception of Islam that you have from other sides, and then the actual how Islam really is, you may have an internal battle and you have to get over some things. But anyway, to make a long story short, going home that day after the first prayer in 15 years, which only took a few seconds, I had a translation of the Quran in my hand. Then when I got home, I realised, hold on, I'm now back in the same spot where I said with the first prayer I've said in a decade and a half, and I've got this.
Wow.
But that was only one of the signs anyway. I'll roll on to like I say, this is a 4.5 year process, so a lot of it has slipped my mind, the astaghfirullah, but I'll roll on to a couple more powerful signs. When I speak about my family, obviously Islamically we have to make clear, my family are my adopted family, but we have to make the clear difference in Islam, so I'll just chuck that out there. People who raised me adopted me, but as far as I'm concerned, morally they are my family, just not biologically. So as time went on, I became more and more convinced of Islam in stages through some of the kind of signs we discussed earlier, but I won't go into detail about them. But a couple of years, fast forward a couple of years, I was working night shift on the underground,
Okay.
And I was waiting for my bus home in Baker Street, or somewhere around Baker Street, and I was living in Swiss Cottage. And I was more towards Islam at this stage, but you have doubts from your own self, from your own past experiences or whatever you hear, and you have doubts from Shaitan as well, who is just basically the devil, I suppose, for a more commonly used term. So I was 4:30 in the morning, I was listening to music in the rain, waiting for a bus, and I just said, sod this. And I said another prayer for guidance. I said, if you're there, God, please help me with this. I'm still confused. Less confused, but I was still confused. This one got answered even quicker. Because I jumped off the bus, 10-minute bus ride, There was 2 shops which were open 24 hours.
Okay.
They were my 2 regular shops. Right outside the bus stop, in the rain, I decided, no, I'm skipping these 2, for no right reason at all. And going to the shop down the road, which I had never went to before, and it was raining, so I had to walk down there and get wet. So I walked into this shop, unbeknownst to me that it was a Muslim shop.
Yeah.
I then picked up something which I had never bought in my life. It was dates wrapped in walnuts.
You never normally eat dates? Or
No, I never even
wrapped in
bought
walnut?
dates before.
Okay.
But dates wrapped in walnuts, even more unusual. I picked it up and I threw it on the counter. And as soon as I did that, the guy behind the counter, he started to give me dawah. Because he linked the dates, like dates are used to break fast in Ramadan, and they're also cited as having some other benefits for us in Islam. So he linked the position of dates in the Islamic tradition to what do you believe in, blah blah blah, and he explained a few things about Islam to me, and I said, I know. So then he went on and explained something else, and I said, I know. Then he went on and explained a third thing, and I said, I know.
So all this time you made a prayer, got on the bus, got off
in
the
the
bus,
rain at 4:30 in the
you've
morning.
ended up in a shop that you've never been to before.
Yeah.
You've picked up something you've never really bought before.
No.
You've chucked it on the counter.
Yeah.
You're not wanting to strike up a discussion with the guy behind the
No,
counter.
not
He
at all.
just
I
starts
didn't
to
know
tell you about
who he
Islam.
was or what he was.
Okay,
But
so he starts telling you about Islam based on the dates.
He starts giving me on the spot dawah.
And you
full
keep
dawah
telling
mode.
him, I know,
Yeah.
based on everything you were saying, because you've
because-
already looked into it.
Yeah,
So-
I had been researching for a number of years at this point, and this was only a few months before Shahada. But then he said, like, well, basically you're Muslim then. He was there, why don't you become Muslim? And I wasn't ready for it at the time, but what do we do about that?
That's fine, don't
I wasn't ready for it at the time, but alhamdulillah, I left the shop, and it did hit me, the way that prayer was answered, it did hit me. And then I left the shop. A few months later, I did take Shahada, and about 9 months, 9, 10 to 11 months after that, the most powerful sign happened. Basically, my dad, by adoption, he got very ill. He got very, very ill, to the point where we knew he was going to pass away. So, shall we just answer?
Let's carry on. You carry on, I'll check it.
Okay, so my dad, by adoption, he got very, very ill, to the point where we knew he was going to pass away. So I've asked him if he has ever read the Quran. Now bear in mind, he was in his early 60s at this time, and back home in Ireland. So I was fully expecting the answer to this question to be no. But no, that was not the answer. The answer was yes. Not only was the answer yes, he then went on to say he read it 50 years ago. Now, 50 years ago in Ireland, in rural Ireland where he was from, nobody would have even heard of the word Quran. Never mind say read it. And then he went a bit further. He then said, I do not dispute anything in it. And then...
You were not Muslim at this point, right?
I was.
Okay, you was.
I was, but I wasn't really on it.
Okay.
And then something clicked with me. When I jacked in Christianity, I had a conversation with my dad. This is going back 20 years ago to when I was about 12 or 13. And I clearly remember the gist of the conversation, and I asked him what's the difference between Muslims and Christians? And this one sentence never left my head. I now realise why. It was guidance from Allah. He said, the day-to-day commands are more or less the same, as in how you should deal with people, etc., etc. But he said the main difference is Muslims believe Jesus is a prophet, and Christians believe he's divine. And he then said, if you look to the Bible, he said, nowhere did that man claim divinity. Now, I didn't know why he said that until 20 years later, when he told me that he had read the Quran 50 years ago. And he believed everything in it. Fair enough, he never acted upon it, and it would have been difficult, to be fair. Like I say, nobody would have even heard of Islam back then in Ireland.
Yeah.
I don't even know where he read it or how. I was just shocked by his admittance that he had, and it doesn't matter anyway. Wow. So I've spoken to him. I've spoken to some other members of my family after this, and kind of tried to edge him towards accepting Islam. And like a lot of people, even though they believe, they don't step into it so easily. But alhamdulillah, his last conscious day on this planet, he took Shahada. And that day wasn't only his last conscious day. It was his last conscious day. He stayed alive for 3 more days in a comatose state, and then passed away. So if there's not signs in all of that, then I mean, you're half insane or more, you know. This is a family I was adopted into. Not knowing that my dad by adoption had already read the Quran and had Islamic beliefs. He then told me what he believed about Jesus 20 years ago. or 20 years ago. It takes another 20 years then for him to mention that he had read the Quran, and then I kind of stuck all the pieces together.
Wow.
You know, and then eventually on his last conscious day, not his last day, his last conscious day, he becomes Shahada.
Wow.
So he took Shahada and becomes Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah. And you know, that's profound, man. And this is the thing, this personal experiences are what really changes. And I guess the take-home message before we conclude, bro, one thing I want everyone to think about, whoever's tuned in, whoever's watched this, whoever's watching this, especially the non-Muslims that are looking into, not even Islam, just looking into the purpose of life and what it's all about and what's going on and what's behind everything and who's behind everything.
Well, this is the way. We're not saying look into Islam and that's it.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to establish truth for yourself, not for us, is if you look into everything.
Absolutely. And
if you look into everything and put the criteria of honesty there.
Yeah.
Honesty with yourself, and also if something contradicts itself, brothers and sisters in humanity, it cannot be true.
Yeah.
At most, it can be partially true. Yeah. But if it's partially false, it's still false.
Yeah.
It's still false. So stack up all the religions, stack up all the philosophies, stack them all up together.
Absolutely.
And start knocking them down.
Absolutely,
and see where you end up.
Absolutely.
You know?
And some people may not even need to do this. First
you may already know.
May already know. And something I want people to really think about is just reflect over their life. Because we've stopped reflecting, bro. People don't reflect. Look, just like you've shared, like what you did was you connected all of these dots later on.
Yes, exactly.
And this is what I want people to do, is to just stop and just think back to their lives and look over events and things that have happened in their lives and remind themselves and ask themselves, was this a sign?
Yeah.
Do things connect?
There is no one that won't see planning in their own life. If you're
Allah
above
says
a
He will
certain
show
age.
us His signs, you know, and the signs, He will show His signs to everyone, right?
This life is just a collection of signs for you.
Yeah.
It's for you to accept or reject. It's up to you.
For example, in one of the chapters of the Quran, God says something very profound. Just the way He starts off, chapter man or insan, human being, in the Quran, He says, wasn't there, and He asks the question, He said, wasn't there a time
man wasn't even mentioned
the human being wasn't even a thing mentioned, let alone you, because now we have these personalities, we think we're this person, but you weren't even a thing, let alone a person, a self, an I. And then a few verses down, I believe 2 verses down, God says, He says that He has shown the way to everyone. Some of them accept it and are grateful for it, and some of them are ungrateful for it. So the signs and the way God shows to everyone, He gives every single human being an opportunity. Because no one, if you really think about it, bro, there's no one better or worse than anyone else. What makes you better or worse is your piety, your taqwa, your consciousness of God. The opportunity is equal, is there for everyone. Everyone gets it.
No doubt about it.
And bro, this is the beautiful thing, is that Allah, God, treats every single human being as an individual. Like, your signs are your signs, bro.
Yes.
No other person ever, from the first man to walk the face of this earth till the last one, will ever have the same tailored signs as you've had, subhanAllah.
Like the brother says, the opportunity is there for all of you.
Yeah, and this is God giving you this status as a human being, that look, the creator of the heavens and the earth is giving you your personalized, bespoke signs, bro. Because He could have just given everyone the same set of signs, said, okay, 50% get this, 50% get this. But look at the attention to detail. Look at the prestige that you are being given, just by even the fact that God is giving you your own personalized, specific signs. Now, if you turn a blind eye to these and you turn away from these, and you reject it, it's your loss. It's your loss. It's not going to be. We're not going to lose out, right?
Neither is the Creator.
Absolutely. So I'm going to humbly ask everyone to do, whoever was watching this or watched this live, was going to watch this later, is just to sit down. If you're sincerely looking for the truth, do 2 or 3 things. Number 1, like Jerry said, there's no harm. Ask God to guide you. And I love the example you gave, bro. Is that if you say, let me build on that analogy.
Sure.
Imagine you need money, right? And someone's borrowed £100 from you and you have £0, bro. You know where they live. When you go to their house, if you really want to get the money from them, you're going to knock the door, you're going to wait, you're going to probably sit in the car, driveway for an hour. You're going to really want to try all you can to try speak to them, right?
Yeah.
If you sincerely really want your money. But if you're not really interested, you're not going to knock. You're going to assume, oh, no one's there. Or maybe knock a little bit. No one's there. Okay, I'm going. Forget this.
Then you can lie to yourself.
Yeah.
And tell
so
yourself
ask yourselves, are you sincerely looking for guidance? Are you sincerely looking for the truth? If you are, then sincerely ask God to guide you. Because if there is a creator who indeed is there, but you may not be sure of him right now, if he's there, he has the ability to guide everything and anyone and everything in existence, right? So ask him for guidance, number one. Number two, sincerely look at your life.
Especially the atheists.
Absolutely.
Look at your life. I say this from my own personal experience. Forget about when you're sitting with your friends bandying back and forth about this philosophical topic or this and that. When you're on your own and your head is on your pillow at night time,
you don't care about philosophy. Man.
Ask yourself, are you fulfilled?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about asking yourself, are you going to have temporary kicks tomorrow? Yeah. Are you going to stack this up or stack that up? Ask yourself, are you truly fulfilled? Do you truly have a purpose?
Yeah.
Because these were the questions that got me to realise, like, I spent most of my 15 years as an atheist on the bad side of good, but that was also a part of the guidance, because I realised there is no fulfillment there.
And I'll give them clear proof right now, bro. Right now where you stand, alhamdulillah, the way you feel, is that or is that not enough for you to definitively say 100% that there is a creator?
Yes.
Do you need any logical or philosophical argument? Do you believe that there's any logical or philosophical argument that'll outdo what you have gained from worshipping the creator of the heavens and the earth?
Not a chance, but I say this. If you can bring me something that has more behind it than Islam, and that is more powerful than Islam, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it, but you can't.
Yeah.
You can't even get close. I mean, when you start doing things sincerely for the sake of Allah, for the sake of God, even if it's a minor thing, you feel a type of contentment that's just like, you know yourself, it's like elation. You know, you just don't get this feeling otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been on the other side of the fence. I've been there with atheism, and I've given my nafs, my desires, everything they needed for 15 years, and things just got worse.
So you're chasing a mirage,
worse, bro. And worse and worse and worse. And like I say, I know that was a part of my guidance.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go to one place to realise you need to turn around and bust off in the other direction.
Absolutely.
You know?
Alright, bro, we're going to do some questions. Let's go through some of the questions that are up here, some of the comments, and see if there's anything we can answer. So I'll just read them out to you, bro, yeah? So, yes, sincerity is great. God sent the Son to die. Okay, we've addressed this already about Jesus, peace be upon him. Islam is a bundle of lies. What would you say to that, bro? In the most, what would you say?
Apart from the fact that it sounds very emotional, it's not very well articulated. If it is a bundle of lies, then stack up those lies and shoot them down, because falsehood is easy to shoot down. It's easy to shoot down. The Quran says, when truth is dashed against falsehood, falsehood perishes. So if you have the truth, then okay, knock it down.
Someone said, "Wow, you must be born again." I don't know what that means specifically. Okay, so someone's saying, "Wow to you who call God a liar." So let's appreciate the position for a second, bro. The person that's put this up, with respect to them, let's try to if we put ourselves in their shoes, I can see what they're saying. Is that because they right now maybe believe, because of whatever reason, all their life and all of the social pressure and all of the things they've become used to, that what they believe is true, right? Yeah. They hold on to that. So when we're saying this about Jesus and God becoming less than a man, they may think we're saying God is a liar because Jesus didn't say, whatever the case is, right? How can you address that person and say, look, that's not the case, we're just trying to show you the facts? What would you advise them to do for themselves?
Firstly,
taking into consideration this situation.
There's a presupposition in there that Christianity, whatever branch it may be, is the truth.
Yep.
And then you've gone on to say that, who am I to call God a liar?
Yeah.
If I've called God a liar, may God's curse be upon me here and now. But we know I've said nothing like that whatsoever. But it's up to you now to prove your presupposition as the truth.
Yeah.
I gave the logical reasons why I rejected Christianity, and I believe they are fair. They are fair, they are rational, and they're arguments that Christianity doesn't answer. So it's not a surprise that you come back in a sort of an emotional way, but you'll have to start from a base of openness if you want to find the truth, whoever you may be, and work from there. But if you're stuck to one position, then how are you going to know if it's true or not?
So what we're saying is we appreciate the emotions because we all are emotionally attached to
got the
ideas
passion
and things.
there,
But sometimes we have to just step back and say, fine, I may be emotionally committed and invested in this idea.
Have you really analysed it?
Just do it for yourself. Don't
yeah.
take it from us. Forget what we said. Just do it for yourself. Analyze it for yourself. Someone said the Holy Spirit is not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Well,
so do we believe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Holy Spirit?
There's not a scrap of a claim that resembles that in Islam, so we can just leave that there.
Someone saying thanks for the chat. No good boy. No problem, bro.
No good boy.
Yeah. What you mean? If it's a bit broken, okay.
It's not very coherent.
Yes, it will. You will be cursed. I have the truth. Jesus is the truth. Okay, maybe what we could do, Jerry, is Joanne Armstrong. Maybe you can have a little chat with her after. I'll show you where she's going to be. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, no problem.
Joanne, if you want Jerry, because he's from the background, you may not want to talk to someone like me, although I personally wasn't.
By the way,
I knew nothing about Islam most of my life.
We don't deny that Jesus is the truth.
Yeah. So John, we will. If you want, please stay online. As soon as we finish the live stream, Jerry and myself will have a little chat with you, try answering your questions the best we can. Even if you want, if Jerry's okay with it, maybe you guys can exchange emails and you could probably help her out a bit, just to clarify certain things.
Yeah, that would be better.
Okay,
via email,
fantastic.
I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Any other questions, guys? If not, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up now. Like I said before, brothers, sisters, friends, please share this. Let's get this out to as many people as possible. Make sure you guys subscribe or click the notification button so whenever we're live, you guys can see we're live. We should be live at least once a week, and I'll try to get Brother Jerry on more on different topics, because these sort of these chat sessions have been
we did have a few other topics in the pipeline, but people get sidetracked here and there.
Absolutely.
So inshallah we can get a few more videos up.
Keep it simple, keep it relevant. Right, and that's the key. We speak to people in a language that they understand. Otherwise, it's pointless. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. May God guide you and continue to guide us and forgive us all. Like I said, click the notification button. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum. May the peace be upon you. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. Jerry, anything last words?
May Allah bless all the Muslims out there, and may He bestow guidance and mercy on all the non-Muslims as He did to me. Ameen.
Ameen.